Night Aurora met Felix Holt. She was wearing Jameson's shirt. Just his shirt. Bare legs, hair loose. Standing in the kitchen of his penthouse at midnight making tea like she owned the place. Because lately she did. 6 months with Jameson had felt like a lifetime. The good kind. The kind where you stop counting days because you've stopped being afraid it will end. She heard the elevator. She smiled without turning around. "You said 30 minutes, she called out. "That was 2 hours ago." "Silence!" She turned around. And it wasn't Jameson. It was a man she had never seen before in her life. Standing in the middle of Jameson's living room. Tall, darker than Jameson, younger, with eyes that landed on her and stayed like he had every right to look. Aurora grabbed the hem of the shirt and pulled it down. "Who are you?" she said. "Not a question, a demand." The man's mouth curved slowly. "Who are you?" I asked first. "You're standing in my brother's kitchen in his shirt." His eyes moved over her once, not disrespectfully. Just honestly. I think I asked second, but better. Aurora's stomach dropped. "Brother." "Felix," he said, "and you must be the woman Jameson has been hiding for 6 months. He hasn't been hiding me." "He hasn't mentioned you once," Felix said simply. He walked to the fridge like he lived there, opened it, grabbed a water bottle, not once, in 6 months, to anyone in the family. Aurora stood very still. "That doesn't mean... It means something." Felix looked at her over the open fridge door. "It always means something." The elevator opened again. This time it was Jameson. He stepped in, loosening his tie, already talking. "Sorry I'm late, the meeting ran over and I couldn't..." He stopped. Saw Felix. Something moved across his face. Fast, gone before Aurora could name it. "Felix." His voice was careful. "When did you get back?" "Tonight." Felix closed the fridge, looked between them both. "You didn't tell me about her. I was going to..." 6 months, Jameson. The air in the room changed. Heavy, old. Like this argument had roots that went back years before Aurora existed. Aurora set down her tea. "I should get dressed," she said quietly. Neither of them stopped her. She walked to the bedroom and closed the door softly and stood with her back against it, listening to the low murmur of their voices and feeling something cold settle in her chest. He hadn't told his family about her. 6 months. Not once. She didn't bring it up that night. Jameson came to bed late, slid in behind her, pulled her close without a word and pressed his lips to the back of her neck, and she closed her eyes and let herself be held, even though her mind was still loud. "Were you going to tell me he existed?" she asked quietly. "Yes, when?" A pause. "Soon. Jameson." "Felix and I are complicated," he said into her hair. "I didn't want that complication anywhere near you." "Why?" He was quiet for too long. "Because Felix wants everything I have," he said finally. "He always has." Aurora turned over in the dark and looked at him. His face was close, serious, eyes open and tired in a way she rarely saw. "Is that why you didn't tell him about me?" she asked. "Because you were afraid he'd want me too." Jameson looked at her for a long moment. "Go to sleep, Aurora," he said softly. He kissed her forehead and didn't answer the question. If you felt that, drop a like right now and subscribe, because this story is just catching fire. Comment below. Do you trust Jameson, or is he hiding something bigger? Felix was still there in the morning. Aurora came out of the bedroom dressed, hair done, ready to leave early and give them space. Felix was sitting at the kitchen island with coffee and a newspaper like he had nowhere else to be in the entire world. He looked up when she walked in. "He's in the shower," Felix said. "Coffee's fresh." Aurora hesitated, then poured herself a cup because she needed it, and she refused to let a stranger make her uncomfortable in a place she'd spent 6 months feeling at home. She sat 2 seats away from him. They were quiet for a moment. "He told me about you last night," Felix said, "after you went to bed." Aurora looked up. "He said you run a flower shop." Felix's eyes were curious, steady, nothing like Jameson's. Jameson's eyes were intense and consuming. Felix's were quieter, like still water over something deep. "That you've been together 6 months, that you're the most stubborn woman he's ever met." Aurora almost smiled. "That sounds right. He also said you're the first person in years who makes him feel like himself." Felix's voice was even. Careful, not like a billionaire, not like a Holt, just himself. Aurora's chest tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. Felix looked at her directly. "Because I want you to know he means it. Whatever his reasons for keeping you separate from the family, and they're complicated, what he feels for you is real." Aurora studied him. "You're defending him." "I'm warning you," Felix said simply. "There's a difference." Before she could ask what he meant, the shower turned off, and 20 minutes later, Jameson appeared, and the conversation ended, and Aurora spent the rest of the day turning Felix's last words over in her mind. Warning her? About what? Celeste arrived on a Thursday. Aurora heard about it from Jameson's assistant before she heard it from Jameson himself. A small detail that she filed quietly away in the growing collection of things Jameson didn't tell her before she found out another way. Celeste Voss is in town, the assistant had said, calling to reschedule a dinner. Mr. Holt's schedule is a bit. It's fine, Aurora had said. I understand. She didn't understand. She went to the flower shop and buried herself in white peonies and tried not to think about the name Celeste Voss and what it meant that she'd never heard it before today. Jameson called at 4. I need to tell you something, he said. Celeste Voss is in town, Aurora said. Silence. My assistant called to reschedule, she added. Aurora, who is she? Another silence. Longer this time. Someone I was with before you, Jameson said carefully. It was serious. For a while. It ended 2 years ago. How serious? Aurora, how serious, Jameson? We were engaged. The shop was quiet around her, just flowers and sunlight, and the word, engaged, sitting in the middle of her chest like something heavy. And she's here now, Aurora said. She's here for a business deal. Her father's company and mine have been. I don't need the business part, Aurora said quietly. I just need to know if I should be worried. No, his voice was firm. Immediate. You have nothing to worry about, I promise. Aurora believed him. She should not have believed him. She met Celeste 4 days later. At a dinner she wasn't supposed to attend. Jameson had said it was business. She'd shown up to surprise him with food from his favourite restaurant, because she was Aurora, and that was the kind of woman she was. The restaurant host recognised her and led her straight to the private dining room. She pushed the door open. Jameson was at the head of the table. Celeste was beside him. Close. Too close. Her hand resting on the table near his, her head tilted toward him mid-laugh, comfortable, easy, like a woman who knew exactly where she stood. Jameson saw Aurora first. His face changed immediately. Celeste turned, and something moved behind her eyes, quick and sharp and calculating before she smoothed it into a perfect smile. You must be Aurora, Celeste said warmly. Jameson talks about you. He talks about her, Aurora noted. But he didn't tell me about her until I asked. Celeste, Aurora said simply. Sit with us, Celeste said, already gesturing to the chair across from her. Please. I've been wanting to meet you. Aurora sat. And across the table, Celeste smiled at her with warm eyes and a voice like honey, and Aurora felt it immediately. The way you feel a knife even when you can't see it. This woman was dangerous. Not loudly, not obviously, quietly, precisely, the way expensive things destroy you. Under the table, Jameson's hand found Aurora's knee. She let him keep it there. But she watched Celeste laugh at something and touch Jameson's arm and refill his glass before he asked, and she thought, woman has done this 1,000 times before. She knows his habits, his preferences, his laugh. She knows him in ways 6 months can't compete with. Aurora excused herself after an hour. In the bathroom she stood at the mirror and looked at herself and said out loud to her own reflection, You are not going to panic. You are not going to cry. You are going back out there and you are going to be exactly who you are. She went back out. Celeste was leaning close to Jameson saying something soft. He was listening. Aurora picked up her bag. I have an early morning, she said. It was lovely to meet you, Celeste. Celeste looked up. Oh, already? We were just getting started. I know. Aurora smiled. Jameson, he stood immediately. I'll walk you out. Stay. Aurora's voice was easy. Calm. Finish your dinner. She walked out before he could argue. In the cab home she sat very still and breathed very carefully and refused to let herself fall apart. Her phone buzzed. Jameson. I'll explain everything tonight. She stared at the message, then put her phone face down on the seat and watched the city lights blur past the window. He came at midnight. She opened the door and he walked in, and before he could say anything she said, Just tell me the truth, all of it, right now. So he did. He told her about Celeste, about the engagement, about how it had ended, not cleanly, not kindly, but the way things end when two people want different versions of the same life. He told her the business deal was real, that it had nothing to do with feelings, that Celeste was his past and Aurora was everything he wanted now. Aurora listened to all of it. Then she said, Does she know that? Jameson paused. Because the way she looks at you, Aurora said quietly, is not the way a woman looks at her past. Aurora, and the way she looked at me, Aurora continued, is not the way a woman looks at someone she's not threatened by. Jameson crossed to her and took her face in both hands. Listen to me, he said, low and certain. Celeste is nothing. Whatever she wants, whatever she thinks, it doesn't change a single thing about us. Not one thing. His eyes were open. Honest. The eyes she had learned to read over 6 months. She searched them for a lie. Found none. She grabbed his collar and pulled him down and kissed him hard, and he wrapped his arms around her and lifted her off the ground, and she held on and let herself believe him. She should not have let herself believe him. Subscribe right now, because what Felix does next will destroy everything. And comment below. Do you think Celeste already has a plan? Or is she just getting started? 3 weeks later, Felix kissed her. It was an accident. That's what she told herself. It started as nothing. Jameson was travelling for 4 days. Felix had stopped by to drop off something for his brother, and stayed because Aurora offered tea, and Felix never said no to tea, and somehow an hour passed, and then 2, and they were sitting on the floor of the living room with the city spread out below them, talking about everything and nothing, the way some people talk when they forget to keep their guard up. Felix made her laugh, differently from Jameson. Where Jameson's humour was dry and rare and landed like a surprise, Felix was warm, easy, the kind of company that felt like exhaling. She forgot herself. That's all she could say afterward. She forgot herself. He'd reached over to take her teacup, and his hand had covered hers, and they'd both looked down at the same moment, and then looked up, and the distance between their faces was nothing, and his eyes were asking something that her heart answered before her brain could intervene. Then his lips touched hers. Soft, barely there, a second, maybe 2. Then Aurora pulled back, hard. She stood up so fast she knocked the tea over. No, she said. Her voice came out strange, high and broken. No, Felix. He was already standing, his face, God, his face, not guilty, not calculating, devastated, like a man who'd done something irreversible and knew it. Aurora, get out. Her voice shook. Please, just, please get out. He left. She stood in the middle of the living room for a long time after the door closed. Her hand pressed to her mouth, her chest heaving. What had she done? What had she done? She didn't sleep that night, or the next. When Jameson came home, she held him tighter than usual. He noticed. You okay? He asked into her hair. I missed you, she said, which was true, which was not the whole truth, and the lie of omission sat inside her like a stone she could not put down. Celeste noticed before Jameson did. She always noticed things first. That was her gift, her weapon. She saw it at a dinner 3 days later, the way Felix didn't look at Aurora the way he looked at everyone else, the way Aurora laughed too quickly at something Felix said, and then caught herself and pulled back, the small, careful distance they both maintained like 2 people managing something hot. Celeste sat back in her chair and lifted her wineglass and thought, sheer it is. She had been waiting. She had been patient, and now she had exactly what she needed. Later that night she found Felix alone on the balcony. I saw the way you looked at her, Celeste said simply. Felix didn't deny it, didn't flinch. Don't, was all he said. Your brother will lose his mind, Celeste said. I know. It will destroy everything between you. I know. And you still? I said don't. Felix's voice was quiet. Final. He turned to look at her. What do you want, Celeste? She smiled. The same thing I've always wanted. Jameson. Felix looked at her for a long moment. Then we have a problem, he said, because I'm not helping you. I don't need your help, Celeste said. I just need you to keep feeling exactly what you're already feeling. She tilted her head. The rest will take care of itself. She went back inside. Felix stood on the balcony alone, his jaw tight, his hands gripping the railing, knowing she was right. Aurora was arranging flowers on a Tuesday when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't pick up. Aurora. A woman's voice. Warm. Careful. My name isn't important, but what I'm about to tell you is... Who is this? Jameson has been meeting Celeste alone, every day for the past 2 weeks. Not for business. A pause. For something else. The shop went quiet around Aurora. I don't know who you are, Aurora said carefully, but... Check his calendar, the voice said. Tuesday and Thursday mornings. The Meridian Hotel. Suite 14. Another pause. I'm sorry, Aurora. You seem like someone who deserves better. The line went dead. Aurora stood very still. White peonies in her hands. She put them down slowly, picked up her phone, opened Jameson's shared calendar that he'd given her access to 3 months ago as a gesture of openness and trust. Tuesday morning, Meridian Hotel. Private meeting. Thursday morning, Meridian Hotel. Private meeting. Every week for 2 weeks. Aurora set the phone down, walked to the back of the shop, and sat down on the floor among all her flowers, and breathed. She didn't go to the hotel. She didn't confront him. She went home, made dinner, acted normal, watched him across the table and listened to him talk about his day and laughed at the right moments. And when he reached across and took her hand, she let him and looked at his face and thought, Am I losing you? You already gone. I already lose you. The night Felix kissed me, and this what we do now. Hold secrets across a dinner table and pretend we are still who we were. You're quiet, Jameson said. Tired, she said. He brought her hand to his mouth and kissed her knuckles. She smiled and said nothing. The next morning she called Felix. He picked up on the first ring. Someone called me, she said. About Jameson and Celeste. Silence. Felix, I know about the meetings, he said quietly. Aurora's blood went cold. You know, Aurora, you didn't tell me. It's not what the caller made it sound like. Celeste she's pushing Jameson on the deal. She's using the meetings to put pressure on him. It's manipulation, not. How do you know that? Because I know Celeste. Felix's voice was tight. She does this. She creates situations that look like one thing when they're something else. She wanted you to find out about the meetings. She wanted you to call me. Aurora went quiet. Felix said, at the dinner. She noticed something and now she's using it. Using what, Felix? Aurora's voice dropped. What is there to use? Silence. Heavy. Long. Full of everything neither of them had said. Aurora, Felix said. His voice came out low and rough and honest in a way that made her close her eyes. Tell me what to do, because I have tried. I have tried to want nothing, to feel nothing. But you are my brother's woman and I cannot. Stop, her voice cracked. Stop right there. He stopped. I love Jameson, she said. I know. I love him, Felix. I know. His voice was barely above a whisper. I know you do. She pressed her hand to her eyes. Tell me what Celeste is planning, she said. All of it. Everything you know. A pause. Then Felix told her everything. Drop a comment right now, Team Jameson or Team Felix, and subscribe because the ending of this story will leave your jaw on the floor. Episode 2 is coming, and nothing is what it seems. Aurora walked into the Meridian Hotel on a Thursday morning looking like she owned it. Black dress, hair down, chin up. Suite 14 was on the 3rd floor. She knocked once. Celeste opened the door for 1 second, just one. Something flickered behind Celeste's perfect face. Surprise. Then it was gone, and the smile was back. Aurora, she said warmly. What a surprise. Is it? Aurora said. Celeste stepped back and opened the door wider. Aurora walked in. The suite was beautiful. Flowers on the table. 2 coffee cups, papers spread out that were clearly there to look like a business meeting. Jameson was standing by the window. He turned around, and the expression on his face when he saw Aurora, the flash of guilt, the immediate scramble toward composure, told her more than any phone call could. Aurora! He moved toward her. This isn't. I know what it is, Aurora said calmly. I know exactly what this is. She turned to Celeste. You called me, Aurora said simply. Celeste's smile didn't waver. I'm sorry. The unknown number, the Meridian. Suite 14. Aurora tilted her head. You wanted me here. You wanted me to walk in on this so that whatever I saw on my face would do your work for you. Celeste said nothing. And you wanted Felix to be the one who warned me, Aurora continued, because if Felix warned me, it would look like something. And you were hoping Jameson would find out about that something and the whole thing would collapse from the inside. The room was very quiet. Jameson looked between them. What does Felix have to do with... Celeste has been running a play, Aurora said. She looked at him directly. Fully. On both of us. While you were meeting her twice a week to discuss a deal she has no real intention of signing. Jameson's eyes went to Celeste. Is that true? He said quietly. Celeste's smile finally faded. You have no idea what you're talking about, she said to Aurora. Her voice had dropped the warmth. Cold underneath it now. The real voice. You're a florist from downtown who got lucky with a powerful man. This world is not yours. This man is not yours. Actually, Aurora said. Her voice was completely steady. He is, because unlike you, I'm not here to own him. She looked at Jameson. I'm here because I love him, and there's a difference. She turned and walked toward the door. Aurora! Jameson's voice stopped her. Raw, open. She turned. His face was completely undone. All the composure, all the control. Gone. Just a man looking at a woman he was terrified of losing. I should have told you about her the moment she called, he said. I should have told you about everything. I kept thinking I could handle it before it touched you, and instead He stopped. Exhaled. I'm sorry. Aurora looked at him for a long time. Then she said, Come home. Jameson crossed the room. His arms went around her. She closed her eyes and held on. Behind them, Celeste stood very still, her face for once completely unguarded, and in it was not anger, not calculation, just a woman watching someone have the thing she had wanted for years. And knowing, finally, that she had lost. That evening, Aurora sat on the kitchen counter in Jameson's penthouse eating takeout and telling him everything. Felix, the almost kiss, the guilt she had been carrying, she told him all of it. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, the kitchen was quiet. Say something, she said. Jameson set down his food, looked at her. Did you kiss him back? He asked. No, she said immediately. I pulled away. Immediately. He nodded, slowly. Are you in love with him? He asked. She looked at him directly. No, but you feel something. It wasn't an accusation. Just a question. Tired and honest. Aurora's eyes filled. I don't want to. I've been fighting it. But Felix he's my brother, Jameson said quietly. Yes. Jameson stood and walked to the window. Looked out at the city for a long time. Aurora watched his back and felt her heart in her throat. What are you thinking? She whispered. He turned around. I'm thinking, he said slowly, that I almost lost you because I kept things from you. And you almost lost yourself because you kept things from me. He crossed to her, stood between her knees, took her face in his hands. And I'm thinking that if we survive this, and I want to survive this, Aurora, we cannot keep things from each other anymore. Her hands covered his. Agreed, she whispered. He kissed her. Soft, long. The kind of kiss that felt like a beginning. She held on with both hands. Felix left the city 3 days later. He came to the shop to say goodbye. He stood in the doorway with his hands in his pockets, looking like a man carrying something heavy he had decided to carry quietly. I'm going to the Singapore office, he said. 6 months, maybe longer. Aurora set down her flowers. Felix, don't! His voice was gentle. Don't apologize. Don't explain. Just... He looked at her one final time. Open. Honest. Everything in it. Be happy, Aurora. That's all I want. She nodded. Her eyes were wet. He turned to leave. Felix. He stopped. Thank you, she said, for telling me the truth about Celeste. You didn't have to... He looked back at her over his shoulder. You deserved the truth, he said simply. Then he walked out. Aurora stood among her flowers for a long time after he was gone, feeling the weight of something that would never be spoken and never be acted on, but would always, always, exist somewhere quiet and sealed and untouched. Some things were not meant to be lived, only felt. And then let go. That night, Jameson came to the shop at closing time. He didn't say anything. Just walked in, took the flowers out of her hands, set them down, and pulled her close in the middle of all those blooms. She rested her head on his chest. His arms tightened around her. Outside, Manhattan moved and breathed and glittered the way it always did, indifferent and beautiful and completely unaware of the two people standing still inside a small flower shop, deciding quietly and completely that they were choosing each other. Not because it was easy, because it was real. Stay, he said into her hair. Not for a night, not for 6 more months. Stay. Aurora closed her eyes. I'm not going anywhere, she said. And she meant it, every single word. If this story wrecked you in the best way, smash that like button and subscribe right now. Drop a comment and tell me, did Felix deserve better? And should Aurora have chosen differently? Episode 2 is coming and Celeste is not finished. She has one final move that will shake everything. You cannot miss it. 6 weeks after Felix left, Aurora was happy. Really happy. The kind of happy that sits in your chest warm and quiet and makes you smile at nothing while you're arranging flowers at 7 in the morning. Jameson had started coming to the shop every day at closing time. Not always with a reason, sometimes just to sit on the counter and watch her work and drink terrible coffee and exist near her like that was enough. It was enough. It was more than enough. One evening, he walked in with takeout and spread it across her work table between the roses and the peonies. And they sat there eating with their fingers and laughing too loud, and at some point he looked at her across the flowers with something so open and unguarded on his face that she put down her food. What? She said. Nothing, he said. Jameson, I was just thinking, he said quietly, that I've never wanted to come home to something this much in my entire life. Aurora felt that in places she didn't have names for. She reached across the flowers and took his face in her hands. Kissed him slow. He pulled her across the table toward him, sending roses everywhere, and she laughed against his mouth, and he held her like something precious, and the whole shop smelled like flowers, and everything felt permanent and safe and real. She should have held on to that moment harder. Felix came back on a Tuesday. No warning, no call. Aurora was locking up when she saw him through the glass, standing outside in the evening light with his hands in his pockets, looking like a man who had been fighting something for 6 weeks and had simply run out of fight. She opened the door. You said 6 months, she said. I know. It's been 6 weeks, Felix. I know, Aurora. She stepped back and let him in. He walked into the middle of her flowers and stood there looking around like a man trying to remember how to be in a room normally. Does Jameson know you're back? She asked. Not yet. Why did you come here first? He turned to face her. I needed to see that you were okay, that nothing was damaged. That I didn't... Nothing is damaged, she said firmly. We are fine. Jameson and I are fine. Something moved across his face. Good, he said quietly. That's good. He turned to leave. Felix, he stopped. He missed you, she said. Even when he was pretending he didn't. Felix looked back at her over his shoulder. That look again. The one she couldn't fully name. Warm and painful living in the same space. Yeah, he said softly. Then he was gone. Aurora stood very still after the door closed. Something felt slightly wrong. She couldn't explain it, just a feeling. Small, quiet, like a door somewhere that was supposed to be locked had been opened just a crack. She shook it off and called Jameson. Something is already off, and you can feel it. Drop a like right now and subscribe. Comment below. Do you trust Felix's return, or does something feel wrong to you? The three of them had dinner 2 nights later. Low lighting, expensive restaurant, the kind of place that absorbed tension quietly. Felix was careful, too careful, kept his eyes off Aurora unless she spoke directly to him, laughed at the right moments, asked Jameson the right questions about the business. Aurora watched him, and felt that feeling again, that small quiet wrongness. Because Felix was performing. She had spent enough time with him to know the difference between Felix being Felix and Felix being careful. And tonight he was being so careful it looked like effort. Why would coming back to a normal dinner require that much effort unless... Jameson's phone rang. 2 minutes, he said, and stepped away. Aurora and Felix were alone. Silence. Then Felix said quietly, "He knows something is off between us." "There is nothing off between us," Aurora said. "Aurora, there is nothing." Her voice was low, even, final. Felix looked at her. She looked back, and in that moment something shifted in his face, something that looked almost like relief. Like a man who had been carrying something heavy and had just been given permission to put it down. Which was strange. Because if there was nothing between them, there was nothing to be relieved about. Aurora filed that away quietly. Jameson came back. The dinner continued. And Aurora smiled, and talked, and laughed, and let the evening move forward, while something in the back of her mind started pulling on a thread she hadn't noticed before. 3 days later, Celeste called Jameson for lunch. He told Aurora immediately, no hiding, no scheduling around her, just, "Celeste wants lunch. I'm going to go and end this deal conversation completely. You okay with that?" Aurora loved him for asking. "Go," she said. "End it." He kissed her forehead and left. Aurora was alone in the penthouse. She wasn't snooping. She needed to find a restaurant reservation confirmation Jameson had said he'd forwarded to her. She opened his laptop to check her email, and the browser was already open on his calendar. She wasn't looking for anything, but she saw it. A calendar entry. 4 months ago, the week before Felix had first appeared in the penthouse. Singapore. Meeting confirmed. FH and CV. FH Felix Holt. CV Celeste Voss. Aurora sat very still. She told herself it was nothing. Business. The family companies were connected. Of course, Felix and Celeste would have meetings. She opened the entry. The notes inside were 3 words. Plan is set. Aurora, 1 week before. Aurora read it again. Plan is set. 4 months ago, 1 week before Felix suddenly appeared in this penthouse for the first time. 1 week before Celeste arrived in the city. She closed the laptop slowly, sat back, and felt the whole last 4 months rearrange itself in her mind like furniture in a room she thought she knew. Felix coming back early from Singapore, the tea sessions, the easy conversation, the almost kiss she had blamed on chemistry and proximity. Celeste's moves. Calculated, patient, designed to create doubt and push Aurora toward Felix at exactly the right moments. Felix gets Aurora, Celeste gets Jameson. Aurora pressed her hand flat against the table, breathed, in, out, in, out. Then she picked up her phone and called Felix. He answered on the second ring. "Aurora, come to the penthouse," she said. Her voice was completely calm. Now, a pause. "Is everything okay? Now, Felix." She hung up. She knows. Subscribe immediately, because what happens next will wreck you completely. Drop a comment right now. Are you team burn him, or team hear him out? Felix arrived in 12 minutes. He walked in and saw her face and stopped completely. Just stopped, like a man who had been dreading a specific moment for months and had just walked straight into it. "Aurora. Singapore," she said, 4 months ago. "You and Celeste." His jaw tightened. "Plan is set," she said quietly. "That's what the calendar said. Plan is set. 1 week before you showed up here for the first time." 1 week before she arrived in the city. Felix said nothing. The silence confirmed everything. Aurora laughed, soft and broken and completely without humour. "The tea," she said. "The conversations. Coming back early from Singapore. All of it." She looked at him directly. "Was any of it real?" Felix crossed to her immediately. "Aurora, don't come closer," her voice cracked. "Answer the question. Was any of it real?" He stopped. Stood there. His face was completely open in a way that had no performance left in it. "It started as a plan," he said quietly. "Yes. Celeste and I met in Singapore. She proposed it. Felix gets Aurora away from Jameson. Celeste gets Jameson back. Clean. Simple." Aurora's chest was heaving. "I said yes," Felix continued, "because I was angry at Jameson. Because he always gets everything, and I was tired. And Celeste was convincing, and I told myself Aurora was just a woman I hadn't met yet. And then you met me, Aurora said. And then I met you. His voice dropped to almost nothing, and nothing went according to plan. Because you are not a woman anyone can just decide things about. You are not someone you can calculate. You sit on the floor of your own flower shop and talk about your dead mother's favourite painting, and you look at my brother like he hung the sky, and you are the most real thing I have encountered in my entire life, and I— He stopped, pressed his hand to his mouth, looked at her with eyes that were wet and completely undone. The almost kiss was not the plan, he said. That was me completely losing the plan. That was me forgetting every single thing I was supposed to be doing, because for one moment you were just you and I was just me and— Stop. Aurora's voice was barely above a whisper. Stop, Felix. He stopped. She turned away from him, stood facing the window. Manhattan spread out below them, indifferent and glittering and completely unaware. You need to leave, she said. Aurora, you need to leave this penthouse, and then you need to tell Jameson everything. Before I do. She turned back to face him. Her eyes were dry. Her voice was steady. Because I will not carry another secret for anyone. Not for you. Not for Celeste. Not for anyone. Felix looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Once. Walked to the door. Stopped with his hand on the frame. For what it's worth, he said without turning around, I would burn the whole plan down for you. I already did. The moment I came back from Singapore, I called Celeste and told her I was done with it. That's why I came to the shop first that night. Not to execute anything. Just to see that you were okay. Just to see you. Aurora said nothing. I know that doesn't fix it, Felix said quietly. I just needed you to know. Then he walked out. Aurora stood at the window for a long time, feeling the weight of everything. Then she picked up her phone and called Jameson. Come home, she said. We need to talk. Jameson came home. Aurora told him everything. All of it. The calendar entry, the Singapore meeting, Felix's confession, Celeste's plan. She watched his face as she spoke, watched the composure crack slowly, watched something old and painful move behind his eyes. He didn't interrupt. When she finished, the penthouse was completely quiet. Then Jameson stood up and walked to the window and stood there with his back to her, and she watched his shoulders and waited. He came back early, Jameson said finally. His voice was low, controlled. He called me from the airport, said Singapore wasn't working out. I thought— He stopped. I thought he was homesick. I thought he missed family. Jameson. He was going to take you from me. His voice cracked on the last word. Just slightly. Just enough. My own brother was going to. He didn't, Aurora said firmly. She crossed to him, stood beside him at the window. He didn't, Jameson. He stopped the plan. He came back and he stopped it, and he told me the truth when I asked him directly. That doesn't make it— I know. She took his hand. I know it doesn't make it okay. I know you're angry. You have every right to be angry. He looked at her. His face was raw and open and tired. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I'm okay. Did you— He stopped. When he was here, those nights, did you— No, she said immediately. No, Jameson. Not even close. He exhaled. She stepped in front of him and took his face in her hands and made him look at her properly. I choose you, she said. I chose you when Celeste was sitting on your kitchen counter. I chose you when Felix was being everything easy and warm and uncomplicated. I chose you every single day, and I am choosing you right now. Jameson's hands came up and covered hers. His forehead dropped to hers. I'm going to need a minute with Felix, he said quietly. I know. It might not be pretty. I know. But after— His voice softened. After I need you here. I'll be here, she said. I'm not going anywhere. He kissed her, hard and desperate, and with everything he had. She held on with both hands and kissed him back just as hard and just as desperate, and when they finally pulled back, they were both breathing like they'd been running. I love you, he said. She blinked. He had never said it before. 6 months. All of this. And he had never said it before. Say that again, she whispered. I love you, Aurora. His eyes were completely certain. I have loved you since the night you sat on the floor of your shop and cried about your mother's painting, and I didn't know what to do with myself. Her eyes filled. She laughed, pressed her face into his chest, his arms wrapped around her tight. I love you, she said into his shirt. I love you so much it scared me for months. He held her tighter. And they stood there at the window with Manhattan below them, and everything messy and complicated and real around them, and chose each other so completely and so finally that nothing after this would ever seriously threaten it again. Felix met Jameson the next morning. Aurora wasn't there. She had offered to be. Jameson had said no. Some things needed to happen between brothers without an audience. She went to the shop and arranged flowers and tried not to think about what was being said across the city. 2 hours later, Jameson called. It's done, he said. Are you okay? She asked. A pause. Not yet, he said honestly, but I will be. And Felix? Another pause. Longer. He's leaving again, Jameson said. His choice. He said he needs time away from all of it. A breath. He asked me to tell you something. Aurora's hand stilled on the flowers. He said, you deserved the truth from the beginning. And he's sorry it took him this long to be someone worthy of giving it to you. The shop was quiet. Aurora closed her eyes, felt the weight of Felix Holt settling somewhere in her chest. Not as a wound, not as a what-if, just as a person she would always carry a small, quiet piece of. Some things were not meant to be lived, only felt, and then let go. Tell him, she started. I already did, Jameson said softly. She smiled. Of course he had. Celeste left the city on a Thursday. No goodbye, no final move, no last calculated smile. Just gone. Aurora heard about it from Jameson's assistant and felt nothing except a mild surprise that it had ended so quietly for a woman who had arrived so loudly. Some villains don't get dramatic exits. Some just leave when the game is over. That evening Jameson came to the shop at closing time, same as always, terrible coffee in hand, sleeves rolled up, looking completely out of place on her ordinary street in a way that had stopped being surprising and started being home. Aurora looked up when he walked in. He looked at her and smiled. Not the controlled smile. Not the billionaire smile. Not the one he gave boardrooms and cameras and the world that needed him to be untouchable. The real one. The one that was only hers. She crossed the shop and walked straight into his arms, and he wrapped around her immediately like she was something he had been waiting to hold all day. Take me home, she said into his chest. You are home, he said into her hair. She pulled back and looked at him. He looked back. And everything that had happened, Celeste and Felix and Singapore and secrets and almost kisses and calendar entries and betrayals, and the slow, terrifying process of two people deciding to be completely honest with each other. All of it sat between them not as damage but as proof. Proof that they had been tested and had chosen each other anyway, every single time. Aurora took his hand. He laced his fingers through hers. They walked out of the shop together into the Manhattan evening, and the city moved around them loud and indifferent and glittering, and neither of them noticed any of it. They only noticed each other. If this ending hit you in the chest, smash that like button and subscribe right now. Drop a comment and tell me, did Felix deserve forgiveness? Was Celeste ever going to win? And are you ready for season 2? Because these two are not done yet. Share this video and let your friends pick a side. Team Jameson was always the answer, but was it? The end.